Well, hello, that's me again. Today is December the 8th. I believe it's Sunday, actually, 2024. And I will start, of course, with the issue which everybody is concerned about, and this is Syria. So, before I continue here with all that, I want to stress what I stress all the time. I'm not a very big specialist in that region, but I definitely had a very vast experience with not only being near the military people from, for example, Syria and other Arab countries, and obviously I had my circle of communications people who have been military advisors to basically Saddam's government and to Assad's government, father, not Bashar al-Assad. So so I know experiences of those people, and I know what they were talking about, and I have been myself in Libya, for example. So, and obviously there is no denial of the fact that it's a serious image blow to Russia. But the point is, and before we start talking about what have happened, I can tell you one thing: the collapse and the speed with which all happened in Syria and Assad governments, nobody knows yet, or still, if you wish, where Bashar al-Assad is. It was a result, actually, not of some, how to put it politely, outstanding military capabilities of these terrorist organizations, of HTS, whatever the name of those Al-Qaeda types supported by Turkey, United States, and Israel. It was the fact of what I want to stress, and I was stressing this for years. I know it's already happened before. Now there will be a bunch of Arab guys saying, how can you say this? It's simply, you know what, it's without any respect. Well, I'm sorry, I never respected Arab militaries. This is not to say that they do not have courageous people or, competent people. It's not true. There are many courageous people. There are many competent people. But the problem is, the nature of the Arab governance and Arab militaries is that it's only about the price tag. And so in this particular respect, we can 100% state, and I will explain why I think so, there was a deal. And basically the Syrian Arab army, most of it was bought out by, Turks maybe. And the only thing they were good at in the last 10 years after Russians and Iranians primarily fought it with some Syrian, obviously, help and a couple of divisions, which, well, they're called divisions, they're really the size of the brigades, which could be called more or less combat capable. It was Iranians and Russians, especially airspace forces, which did the job in basically demolishing ISIS, Islamic State. So, and what they were good at was primarily getting themselves orders, medals, all kinds of the generals' privileges, and as the result that we had this collapse, which essentially, in Arab world, there is not a donkey which cannot penetrate the best the fortress. So, and I want to, while we're speaking about this situation with Syria, let's go and read the statement by Russian Ministry of the Foreign Affairs, which was issued today. And as you can see yourself, it states that we are following the dramatic development in Syria with extreme concern. Following his talks with a number of participants in the armed conflict in the Syrian Arab Republic, Bashar al-Assad decided to step down as the Syrian president and leave the country, instructing the government to transfer power peacefully. Russia was not a party in those negotiations. That's Arab world for you guys. However, we call on all parties involved to renounce the use of violence and resolve all governance issues through political effort. Russian military bases in Syria on high alert. There is no serious threat to their security at the moment. From what I gather right now, and there are some competent sources from Russian Ministry of Defense, for example, that there are some of the Iranian detachments, together with the remnants of the Syrian Arab army, which actually didn't betray their own country, they are basically moving towards the Russian Khmeimim and Tartus bases, and I'm pretty sure there will be some kind of the consolidation there, and then there will be the decision to to be made about Russian bases. Well, there are all kinds of people saying that, oh, there is a Saigon moment there. Well, it could be, but it will be very different from what obviously usually they try to portray. But again, people have to keep things in the proper perspective. And as I already stated, for the last 10 years, Syrian government, and especially, it was utterly corrupt, and military was utterly corrupt. This is what Arab militaries do. They sell out their governments and their presidents. They are really good at it. And you can take a look at the fate of the people in Egypt after 1973, Anwar Sadat. You remember how it all ended for him. They're really good to be being, angry. So, and in this particular case, we have to also keep basically the, how to say it, hand on pulse. And these are the as you can see yourself, this was November 30th, Russian ships in Tartus. And this is the December 7th, as you can, rather December 6th. So, I mean, Russians do the regular training there, and those bases are fairly well protected. Will they be defended, or will Russia insist and try to consolidate some area of Latakia, which is primarily Shiite Muslims, and there are a number of Christians? We'll see. It depends. But evidently the Sam deal, which was essentially corruption, have been made. And as a result, we saw yet another Arab army disintegrating and running like, as I already stated, those people do not really fight that well. And as has been stated, you can go to Date of Vzгляд and use, for example, the article. It's a beta article, understandable. Russia did get the kind of the egg on its face, but Alexander Kotz, and he basically describes what they were doing primarily all those 10 years. Again, Iranians and Russians have been fighting, some Syrian units have been fighting, Syrian generals were primarily getting themselves all those, shiny toys and privileges, and that's the result. So for them, I mean, it doesn't matter who to serve, as long as they have their own home, house, the harem, whatever, they have many cars, they have the luxuries, that's what they're living for. There's no, especially in such a country which is absolutely diverse in terms of the ethnicities and in terms of the religion. So, well, guess what? I guess we have to admit the fact that Syria probably is no more. It's going to be basically dissolved into like chaotic Libyan type scenario, and warlords will start, just running around. There are Kurds, there are, as I already stated, Alawites, and so there will be some arrangements made. But yeah, if Syrian people, or whatever we understand under Syrian people, didn't want to defend their country, it's not business of Iranians, and it's not business especially of Russians. You cannot help it. This is just the way it is. They wanted it, they got it. And people, I already actually, hysteria, which, there are many trolls, which is happening right now at my blog, is they already managed to actually blame Russians for hundreds of thousands of killed innocents. Well, there you go. And now I want to kind of get you back to this article, which I constantly talk about, and you know what, read it. As I already stated, if you disregard this garbage, what Colonel Norvald Atkin writes about Soviet military, of which he absolutely has no clue and never had. So, but everything else, what he writes about the Arab militaries, and it's very much in the same vein as what Soviet and Russian military advisors write about them. As I already stated, there are courageous and competent people among them, but primarily it is about price tag and how you look like in the, So, and he talks about that Iraqis showed ineptness against an Iranian military ripped apart by revolutionary turmoil in 1980s. Absolutely, Iraq was supported by the United States and Soviet Union, and yet I mean, they just absolutely have been beaten by essentially fully isolated Iranians. And the Arab military performance on both sides of the 1990 Kuwait war was mediocre. So, and there are many factors, as he correctly states, that economic, ideological, technical, but perhaps the most important has to do with culture and certain societal attributes which inhibit Arabs from producing an effective military force. And we saw it actually in the last week when it's absolutely very clearly stated there. The panic set in at the general staff of the Syrian army, and it's difficult to command and control your troops when you basically are dealing with improving your living conditions and, good old Arab things, traits which permeate their militaries, all surfaced. What I knew from the Naval Academy, and as I already stated, I am on record, if you go to my blog for 10 years, that no, they're not good militaries, and evidently we saw it today, because in the end they betray you. So the same happened with the. As much as we can accept this fact that the Iraqi military was decimated by 2003, but it wasn't decimated merely by basically allied forces, which essentially bombed them with impunity. They were decimated by, obviously, corruption and sold out to, again, Israeli and Americans. So that's what you have to, keep in mind when you deal with those people. And here we are. So what is the fate of Bashar al-Assad? I don't know, as I already stated. And again, I am like you guys. I'm primarily looking at the official sources of information, and I know where sources are which give a little bit of the insight. So it's too early to say what it's going to be. But yes, Syria is done. It's over. Sunni Muslims which live there, they wanted it. They will be living in the Sharia law, and so United States will get into probably expand its Al-Tanf base, but eventually it will become most likely as Libya. So, and again, as already stated, the issue of the Russian bases will be decided there appropriately, but the Russians do have actually the means and, if necessary, required force to actually defend them. So, but again, as already stated, the main thrust, the main issue, what is actually defines all that, is of course not in Syria, not in the Middle East. Middle East issues are driven by actually Israeli lobby in the United States and the United States' desire for oil primarily. Russia doesn't need oil; she has plenty of oil, and that's why there was always the issue. Russians go into the Arab countries and then get betrayed and backstabbed. That's the nature of the culture and the nature of the region. Nothing you can do about it. So, and that is it in this respect. So, and as you can see yourself, I can just only give you a reminder what Russians did. And this is Lieutenant Colonel Nicholas Sinclair of the U.S. Army. And this was written, as you can see yourself, in January, February 2020. Russia's campaign in Syria appears to have succeeded beyond all expectations. I don't see why they were beyond all expectations. It was expected. Russians did their deed. At its outset, many in the West thought Russia was doomed to fail. Well, Russia did fail, but not in a sense that many people understand. Russia failed in image-wise because many people still believe that there were some significant force of Russian army or Russian troops on the ground. No, there were only special operation force and obviously the support force which is guarding the Khmeimim and Tartus base. That's about it. If need be, Russia can definitely deliver a division-sized force very fast in 24 hours. That will be primarily by the most likely paratroopers, I think. And Russia has plenty of those forces. And that brings us to the main issue. And the main issue, however dramatic and PR-wise Syria is important, the main issue is here in Ukraine. And we obviously begin to take a look again at Mr. Trump making the most dumbest statements, which, well, he met Zelensky, so what do you expect? Here is Mr. Trump after meeting with Zelensky and Macron for 20 minutes, no less. He was delivered these numbers, and look at this. The US president-elect earlier put the number of 6,100 soldiers and Ukrainian losses at 400. So, So he says that Moscow has lost some 600,000 servicemen in the conflict. It's a typical propaganda, and again, Trump has zero. As many people say that he is very smart and can handle this or that issue. Well, he is not military man, and he has no clue what he is talking about. And what, as you can see yourself, after the 20 minutes with Zelensky, he got with these ridiculous numbers. But we will go and take a look at the actually development and the dynamics of the armed forces of Ukraine sustaining, today actually, it's December 8th, as you can see yourself, 1,855 killed primarily. You have this wonderful number, pardon me, wonderful being quote unquote, reaching 1 million by the most conservative and actually probably even very inaccurate to the lower end Russian Ministry of Defense estimates. So yeah, Mr. Trump should get better sources and especially more competent military for him when he makes those statements. And as you can see yourself, the slaughter continues. And if you take a look now from our good friend Marat Khairulin, here's the Toretsk. As you can see yourself, this is yesterday. You see, everything is surrounded, everything is infested, and this is just Toretsk. You see those again circles with the red arrows. These are constant attacks and advancements. As you can see yourself, Russians advance steadily every single day. And here's the Chasov Yar. This is what we have in Chasov Yar, as you can see yourself again yesterday. Movement, non-stop movement, and surrounding and kicking them out of the whatever is left of the armed forces of Ukraine from all those reinforced positions which have been prepared for the last 8 years. And just to demonstrate to you what is happening, here are some testimony of the prisoner of war, Ukrainian prisoner of war, and he's talking about that the armed forces of Ukraine throw hastily trained mobilized troops into the Kursk region. And he talked about how they are prepared. It was an intensive week. In some center in the intensive training course, 1 week long. It's essentially cannon fodder. Fact is, they would have probably better chances surrendering immediately. And so, yeah, in a week, the brigade have took them. One of the brigade, he was assigned to the 95th brigade. They called it intensive. Yes, we were not even elected there. The 95th arrived. There were others before that. Then came from the training ground. The 95th, meaning brigade people arrived. We were lined up. A company, they said, those to get out. And so they selected some more cannon fodder and they throw them in Kursk, where they immediately killed. And as I already stated, I'm not going to be showing here, those pretty gruesome, honestly, photos. But yeah, you can take a look at them at my blog. So, and in Sumy, which is of course near Kursk, according to the prisoner, they were settled in a private house and then sent to the training ground again. There they underwent a short training course which included medicine, tactics and shooting. But in the evening I came and sent 15 minutes to get ready, let's go. We gathered in 15 minutes and half an hour later in armored vehicle came for us Kozak, it's Ukrainian version, the bastard version of some kind of the BTR, loaded 8 of us according to the list and went. We drove for an hour and a half. So there you go, machine gunner of the 95th Air Assault Brigade, Vyacheslav Ryabina, was mobilized this is the guy, in August 2024. In December, he surrendered of the Kursk region. So, as you can see yourself, yesterday's estimates, I'm pretty sure Russians can count, they say that the armed forces of Ukraine lost more than 38.8, which is, basically 39,000 servicemen killed in Kursk area. And that is, basically this is, as I already stated, the real military level of all those people who planned those operations, plus add here with the arrogance and desperation of the Ukrainians, and you get what you get. And then suddenly, as I already stated, the front is collapsing. If you go all through the length of it, from Kursk down to Kupiansk, down to even Zaporozhye, they are dying in thousands every day. That's the real war. That's the war which actually neither United States nor NATO as a whole are capable of fighting. So, well, yeah, as in Syria, they probably create all kinds of the terrorist proxies together with Turkey, and yeah, that's what happens. Well, yeah, as I already stated, in Arab world, it is very easy to buy people, period. And so, if anybody, again, I want to forestall all those, hysterical, as always, claims that, oh, you cannot say that about us. Well, I'm sorry, guys, look at your record. I mean, this is what it is. And the opinion, as I already stated, of the professionals, Soviet and Russian professionals, who taught and trained those Arab militaries, not very high, to put it mildly. And there is a reason for that. And as I already stated, you have to look at the cultural, social, and ethnic factors which form those militaries. As I already stated, Syrian generals were primarily busy with setting their own, privileges. But here is a real serious war, and as you can see yourself, numbers speak for themselves. And I want to stress that this will continue, and any talks, this is what they love. As Mr. Trump comes out and says that Ukraine is ready to cut the deal. No, it doesn't matter what they're ready. It has been already stated many times what's gonna happen. Unlike Syria, Russia fights here for her own interests, and huge ones and existential. So Mr. Trump can pretend and issue all kinds of statements, but yeah, it's not gonna fly, and it wasn't flying at all. And now comes this very interesting thing, and this is, you have to understand, and RT is, while it's definitely provides a better coverage of the events in the world, you have to understand it's still, it's still staffed primarily, not exclusively, by people who have no clue, and they are journalists. They write all kinds of things without understanding what happened. And if you look attentively at their look at this. This is their yesterday's headline from RT about Russia to provide closest ally with Oreshnik missile. What a load of malarkey! This is a clickbait and a wrong headline. Because Russia is not going to provide closest ally, which is Belarus, and primarily Mr. Lukashenko, who is carrying mostly, to be multi-vector and multi-chair guy, but he wants to, be re-elected, which is understandable. I'm not saying that he shouldn't be worried about this, but the point is, look attentively how they say about those things. These systems will be delivered to the Russian strategic missile forces and will be deployed in parallel on the territory of Belarus. That's what Mr. Putin says. Mr. President Lukashenko and his military will have absolutely no relation to the command and control of those forces, but so in this case, Russia is not providing Belarus with Oreshnik. Russia providing itself with Oreshnik, deploying it on the territory of the Belarus. But again, as I already stated, this is what modern journalism is. It's a clickbait. It's ballooning, people into all kinds of, pardon me, the confusion. And that is why, for example, you cannot really trust any kind of the source anymore until you understand what is going on. And so when they say that Lukashenko had asked about obtaining some of the Oreshniks, he could have asked whatever to become Superman. He has no relevance whatsoever to the command and control vertical of the Russian strategic missile forces, period. There will be no transfer of any kind of the weapons containing nuclear warheads. So in this case, he asked to be deployed, but he didn't ask about obtaining. Belarus obtained nothing, zero. It is basically Russia deploying Oreshniks to Belarusian territory with the consent of Mr. Lukashenko, who has to actually, as already stated, like those Arab leaders he already made up his mind, but he still wants to kind of feel a little bit independent. Doesn't work like this. This is the fate of limitroffs, and this is how they actually exist. Nothing you can do about it. You have a superpower next to you, and you are much smaller. So, and Russian and Belarusian people are very friendly. They are almost relatives. So it is basically union state, and as the union, military political union, actually Russia, after coordinating it with the president of Belarus, basically deployed Oreshnik to the Belarusian territory. You may ask why. Well, we can say definitely about the time, which is, Belarus is a little bit more to the west. It gives it a little bit more shorter time, when you launch them from Belarus if NATO decides to commit suicide. Yeah, it's definitely one of the factors, but by far not the only one. The main factor in Russia, basically, placing such system as Oreshnik, and who knows what else will come there and will be deployed in Belarus, is very simple. It is the fact that Russia is building this, escalation dominance, conventional escalation dominance over NATO if it decides to do stupid things. And in this particular case, Russia has more tools and less range, and that means less time to affect any kind of the military development, while, as I already stated, United States has only one step, and it already took this step, and it's now at the brick wall, because, yeah, they can absolutely, as I already stated, they will light up all kinds of the disturbances and turbulences around the world, trying to, show just that we matter. Militarily, United States doesn't matter anymore, because it cannot fight conventional war. It will be defeated. And so what they do, like in Syria, albeit Israel, United States is not sovereign country in the foreign policy. It has Israel and Turkey written all over it. But the point is that, it's just one step, and they're already at the brick wall of the nuclear outcome. And even people like Blinken, as those sociopaths, they understand if once United States goes there, United States ceases to exist, and that is the issue. Russians will continue to develop and expand their conventional escalation dominance, and that Oreshnik and placing it into Belarus is one of those things. And now people say, what was the deal with this NOTAM, the warning about the airspace, which expired on the 30th of November around Kapustin Yar, which is the classified, well, it's classified on the ground, obviously, you can see it from the satellite, in the Kapustin Yar range, which Russians closed the airspace over it. And what were Russians doing there? I don't know, maybe basically testing the even newer weapon system. And evidently, as has been confirmed, Oreshnik now is in serial production, and that is why Russia can now deploy it in the different parts of Russia and Belarus. And that means that, so if they want to try, they can. I'm talking about NATO, but as I already stated, the Syria is kind of sort of that type of the things they can do, like, buy out the third-rate military and, to commit treason about already shaky government, which wasn't really that busy solving the problems from electricity to water to all kinds of supplies. And as I already stated, Russians are not going to fight for somebody else who do not want to fight. So there you go. Syrians didn't want to fight, and that's the outcome. Situation, obviously, in Ukraine is completely different, and the scale of it, order of magnitude larger, if anybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about. Fact is, strategically, it's several orders of magnitude larger. Now, of course, as you might understand, a lot of hysterical people will be saying, oh yeah, if Russia made the deal or didn't know about the deal behind its back, well, you in Arab world, you have to understand, something will happen behind your back. Russians probably knew it, they just didn't expect Syrian military to be that incompetent competent and essentially, basically combat not ready. And that is why, as I already stated, coming back to the Syrian issue, that if to believe Wall Street Journal, which I do believe, already a week ago, Iran stated to Syrian government that it will limit its aid. Cannot be that Tehran liberals have been bought by some people from whatever the intermediaries from which represented Israel and U.S. interest. Oh, possible. Make no mistake. Nobody is protected from corruption and treason. But obviously, as it already have been stated before, and I will repeat it again, if you look attentively at the primarily Middle Eastern militaries, most of them, in order for them to be effective, need the outside support and propping up, such as was the case with Iranians and Russians. Now, we'll see where Iran goes with all that, but I think so. We have the president of Iran flying to Moscow fairly soon to sign this comprehensive treaty. And again, Iran a little bit different, so make no mistake. But it is the nature of the area, and that's what it is. This is what I had to tell you today, guys, about it. And as I already stated, we only have our mode of operation at this stage had to be just reading the news, sifting from the what's real, what's not, and make conclusions in the short to medium basically term, and we will see. Our pictures will become clear where it is all going. But I mean, I'm sorry, obviously, as Russian Ministry of the Foreign Affairs stated, of the fate of the Syrian people, whatever that means. Obviously, this so striped nation of all kinds of people who many of them don't like each other. So, well, what can I say? We'll see where it all goes. This is what I wanted to tell you today. And so, as usual, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And you know what? Have a nice, rest of your weekend. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.